We'll show you the side of Middle-earth Tolkien didn't want you to see. I mean, they did promise to write the story Tolkien would never write, and that's true. He would never have written this. I mean, I don't know what the purpose... Who is this show for? Clearly, it's not for the fans. The showrunners just, at every opportunity, choose to disrupt the lore for no reason. There is no reasons for most of their lore deviations. There's no good reason. And you can't say that it's, oh, well, it's a dense story, it's time compression, no, they're making stuff up. No, they go out of their way to bastardize the lore, to bastardize Tolkien's characters. Some may find elements that they can appreciate, and good on you if you can do that. But it's also wrapped up in so many moments of repurposed dialogue, of bastardization of dialogue, and Tolkien's themes, and also with a bow of it. Like, the whole show, the way it's framed, is just not entertaining. It is so boring. All the magic is too overt, not subtle or mysterious. So with the rings, the elven rings in season 1, it really just felt like tacked on at the end. Like, they felt, okay, well, the show's called Rings of Power. We gotta have some rings made. So we'll do that at the very end of, in the finale of season 1. And it just felt so forced. Like, it happened in an afternoon. All the elven rings were made. And of course, they're going by the actual poem, the ring poem, as opposed to how the Order of the Rings were actually made. And again, in this show, okay, so they need the Siege of Eregion to happen, but they also need Annatar to get Celebrimbor to deceive him so he can make all the rings that are left. Everything just seems so contrived in order to make that happen. Whether or not it makes sense or not, that happens. And I feel like everyone just says, oh, Sauron is so manipulative. He's this master deceiver. Meanwhile, I'm not seeing any of that. I don't see him as being anything but a simple, mean girl, passive-aggressive manipulator. And everyone else is just stupid. That's how it works. That's how the plot happens. The 7 were forged off-screen in between seasons, so dumb. And the Doors of Durin were made off-screen. And apparently the friendship with the elves and dwarves were established. The rings are powerful by Sauron's blood. The world keeps getting smaller and smaller. Yeah. So Sauron makes the trip to, as Annatar, makes the trip to Khazad-dûm to ask for more mithril. He offers them wood in exchange for mithril. And so they don't take it. They don't accept that offer. And he winks at the camera, and the fire turns into a Balrog and this little brazier next to him. Wink, wink. And okay, so he doesn't get the mithril, whatever. So it's a waste of a trip there. And yeah, he just uses his blood. And he makes Celebrimbor think that it's mithril. Like, that's his mental deception, his illusion that it was, he saw it as mithril when it was really Sauron's blood. And what did he say? His blood was black as pitch. No one talks like that. His blood was black as pitch. It's all Harry Potter magic. That's all they know. Yeah. And they just pull from so many other things. Star Wars, I think, is the most heavy, apart from like the Peter Jackson imagery and scenes and just direct dialogue and characters from the Lord of the Rings story. He looks like he's using the Force. That's how Annatar was operating. He has the Force. And Gandalf has the light side of the Force. He's got to craft his lightsaber before he confronts him. But he's got to confront the Dark Wizard, the not Saruman character, which again we haven't seen since he was introduced, I don't think. The Saruman presenting Dark Wizard. What is the point? Like, how are we going to wrap up all of these things in a way that feels natural and organic? It's not possible. It's going to be unsatisfying, again, like this entire show has been so far. It's going to be forced and contrived, filled with conveniences, and what they want to happen will happen. If they want the One Ring to be created, that will happen. So glad we got origin stories for giant doors and Mithril and Mordor. What the F? That's basically all this has been. It's the origin for Durin's Bane. It's the origin for Gandalf. I really believe they didn't read the books at all. They used the Order of Rings being made from the prologue in Fellowship of the Rings. Wow. Yes. I certainly don't know that for sure. I do think it's malicious at this point. I think some things are willful, but it could also be that they went according to the ring poem and they didn't want to do any further research. I think at that time, maybe they thought it would make more sense for the Elven Rings to have been made at that time where they made the story. It really did feel tacked on. I mean, it was at the last episode, at the last half of that finale, That they just, well, we gotta have some rings made, and there you go. And everything just feels like so contrived. And even the way Galadriel got her ring, it wasn't because she's one of the wisest and fairest elves ever. She got it because it fell in her direction. That's how that works. Maybe it's a combination of just straight up ignorance and malice. I think both is true. But they're definitely taking so much from the Lord of the Rings stories in order to try to tell the Lord of the Rings before the Lord of the Rings. It feels like so much of that is being repurposed for the Second Age. So now we have Tom Bombadil with the whole rescuing Gandalf from the tree, and so much dialogue that he had from those stories into this, and then the insertion of the Barrow Wights. There's so much like that, and the fact that there's wizards to begin with. It's just so many things from those stories in that time period that they had to take, and they have the rights to those stories, and apparently the rights means that they can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want with this show. I, for one, want that orc dad to go home and collect a nice pension for his troubles. Oh yeah, what happened to him? I think he left the battle. They kept cutting to him, to the sympathetic orc. They kept cutting to him, and I think he left right before they did the final battle sequence. Adar leads the last charge, and he just slinks back and runs away. So, like, what are we even gonna do with that dude? I know he's still gonna be around. Some are still thinking that Adar was Celeborn. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's happening. I didn't get that impression before, but, you know, who can say at this point? I wouldn't be surprised at the end if it did happen. Honestly, who cares at this point? I'm actually just curious as to how this is gonna be wrapped up in a way that is, in any sense, satisfying. Like, just for the people who do watch this show and like it. How do you think that this is going to be wrapped up in a satisfying way? There's just so many things happening. I guess they're just going to continue to wink at Numenor's fate and continue to wink at the dwarves' fate with Durin's Bane, and continue to wink at Gandalf, not Gandalf. Where do we go from here? If we have Elrond kissing his mother-in-law, where do we go? Is Celeborn finally going to show up and be like, hey... Oh, that would be hilarious. I hope it does. Please have Celeborn show up. Now, make it weird. They haven't confirmed Galadriel's daughter, right? She's not a thing? I don't know. So does that need to happen? The timeline for this is all messed up. It's not going to go according to what was written, so I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.